Ogenki Diska. Hi everyone. Thank you for joining in. Before we get started, I want to try out something with the crowd here. So I'm going to say two words and I want you to respond with whatever comes to your mind first, okay? And fair warning, if I don't hear any response, I'm going to randomly start picking people, okay? I'm just kidding, I'm not going to do that. So the words are blockchain security. Yeah, go ahead. Right, vector attacks. Anyone else? Okay, so you're right, sir. So the common perspective to smart contract attacks or blockchain security is towards vector attacks. What do we mean by vector attacks? These are generally termed as technical attacks. So they are a result of smart contract bugs, code gaps, flaws in your logic, right? But the point of today's talk is so that at the end of this talk, when someone says blockchain security, you're going to ask if do you mean economic security or do you mean technical security. All right, let's get started. So my name is Varun Doshi. I am the lead engineer at Chainrisk Labs. Chainrisk Labs is a end-to-end security auditing firm. So we provide technical as well as economic audits. We are currently partnered with some big names such as Compound Protocol, Gyroscope, Fuel Network, Arbitrum, so on and so forth. Okay, let's get started. So this is a pie chart showing TVL split up by chain. And as we can see, Ethereum holds 58.34% of the entire TVL in the blockchain space. And that's a huge amount. I mean, even I haven't mugged up that number for the purpose of this talk. Now, if you look at this graph, if you skim through it, you're going to see more red than any other color. And red in this graph signifies Ethereum. So this shows the highest number of exploits that have happened divided by chain. So Ethereum has had the largest number of exploits as well as the largest amount exploited in history. And I would say that is justifiably so. If you ask me what's the justification, this is the justification. That entire blue portion is basically the cash flow in Ethereum. So the highest number of exploits in Ethereum is just a result of Ethereum being the highest and strongest in terms of liquidity. And we as an industry, it's our responsibility to try to minimize this, right? So let's address the elephant in the room. What are economic audits? So economic audits goes one step beyond technical audits by simulating real world scenarios under very stressful environments. What do I mean by real world scenarios? So these can be anything from a Black Thursday price drop or a stablecoin depeg. And we test this a rigorous number of times. So the numbers can range from 1,000 to million number of simulations. A few key points to note when we're talking about economic audits are market conditions. This is pretty self-explanatory, right? Is the market going up? Is the market going down? Ripple effects. So ripple effects is a term that I've come up with when we say there's protocol A there's some unnatural event that happened on protocol A and this affects users on protocol B. So this is a ripple effect. So a unnatural attack caused waves in the DeFi web and affected other protocol and other users. Risk parameters. So if any of you are auditors here, technical auditors, you know that at the end of a technical audit, you submit your POCs for the bugs and then you suggest how to fix them. But for an economic audit, what comes out of the report are risk parameters. Now, what are these risk parameters? These can be anything that your DeFi protocol runs on, such as LTV, the loan to value ratio, the liquidation threshold, or the liquidation penalty. Incentive structures. So what incentivizes your liquidators to liquidate underwater accounts, right? If these aren't modeled correctly, they can have adverse effects on your protocol. Inter-protocol dependencies, like I said, unnatural event on protocol A can adversely affect protocol B. When we're talking about technical audits, it's generally the code within the protocol that the auditors check. But when we're talking about economic audits, it's the code outside the protocol. How are other people's code affecting your protocol? How are some token went up, some token went down? How does that affect your protocol and your users, right? And governance. So we're going to go through a very good example of a governance attack later on. But governance basically means how's the governance structure modeled, right? if your governance is very weak, if you do not have enough parties in your governance, then there could be decisions made that adversely affect your protocol. So economic risks, as you can see, 53.7% of all the exploits are generally due to economic exploits, and only 46% are technical ones. And there are only a handful of economic security companies. There's $50 billion of untapped market cap, and there's only about a handful, like four or five of companies that do economic security. So Chainrisk, Gauntlet, Chaos Labs, Block Analytica. But if you see on the technical security side, there's 20 billion market cap, and it's almost saturated, right? You have Consensus, Slow Mist, Open Zeppelin, Trail of Bits, QuantStamp, so on and so forth. Okay, let's look at some differences between a technical audit and an economic audit. Now, this point right here is, I'm gonna come back to this throughout my talk. This is what I emphasize when I say an economic audit. So in a technical audit, the code itself has loopholes, right? So you're checking for the contract codes, you're checking if there's re-entrancy, like my fellow friend suggested. You're checking if there's logic flaws, you're checking if there's poor access control. But on the economic side of things, more often than not, the code is perfectly okay. The code does exactly what it's supposed to do, and still there is some way that an exploiter can get more money out of your system. So technical exploits are generally always an atomic operation. What are atomic operations? Well, this is a bunch of actions that are executed together. So there's no step 1, step 2, step 3. It's just a one bunch of attacks that go through together. But in an economic audit, it's a very lengthy process. It's a non-atomic process. There's a step 1, there's a step 2, there's a step 3 to execute it. For a technical audit, for a technical exploit, there is no loss for the hacker. This is because there's generally no large initial investment that comes from the exploiter's side when he wants to execute a technical attack, right? But in terms of an economic attack, there's actually a huge initial investment that the exploiter needs to put in to make sure that the attack goes through. And there's a downside to that, or I would say that's an upside for us as an industry. If the attack doesn't go through, it's a loss for the hacker. So technical audits are generally done on public platforms such as Code Arena, or private audits such as Open Zeppelin or Spearbit. But economic audits are done by specialized firms. They can generally never be done by public platforms. There's a reason for this, because economic audits are very resource intensive. Right? You need to have specialized teams in place. There needs to be a data modeling team, there needs to be an engineering team, as well as an auditing team. So it's generally not something that 2 or 3 or 4 security researchers can get together and get it done in a week or 2. So the scope of a technical audit is defined by the protocol that proposes the audit. So they list down the code files that you need to check for bugs. And the scope of an economic audit is ecosystem interaction. So how is the ecosystem interacting with your protocol under different conditions? So let's say a condition could be a stable coin, there was a depeg of stable coin. How does that affect your protocol? So what does a technical audit not check? So these are some points that if you are an auditor, you know you don't go through these when you're doing a technical audit. So interrelated token relationship. So I see DeFi space as a web, and this web has elements such as tokens and protocols and users. But all the tokens and protocols and users are connected to each other somehow or the other. There's no defined path. There could be multiple ways to it, and you can't really bring a formula for that. And you're not checking for this in a technical audit. The next one is Oracle dependencies. So over-reliance on a single piece of Oracle can lead to massive attacks. We're going to see an example of this later on. Governance issues, like I said, if you have weak governance, there could be a lot of problems for you. In fact, a few weeks back, there was an attempted governance hack on Compound Finance, which was averted by the team because they knew how to handle it. Compound Finance has actually gone through a few economic audits, and Chainrisk is actually doing an economic audit for them. So Beanstalk exploit is what we're going to go through a few slides next. Liquidity crisis. So I truly believe liquidity is oxygen for any protocol, and I look at a protocol as a thread. And if you have low liquidity, you're basically pulling the thread apart. And there's a threshold point after which the thread will snap, right? And you can't recover your protocol after that point. So this is a very personal opinion, but Terra Luna is, I would say the DPEG of Terra Luna was the origin of people realizing that economic security is a thing, that you need economic security, and technical security or audits are not enough to secure any protocol. So if you've been in the industry for more than 4 or 5 years, you know this graph. It's the thing of fun nightmares, right? But when we talk about the Terra Luna DPEG, we always talk about it from a user's perspective, right? Users had invested a lot on Terra Luna and they lost. But we don't generally talk about it from a protocol perspective. So this is Bliss Finance, which had Terra Luna listed as one of its tokens, and this got hacked soon after the Terra Luna DPEG. So as you can see here, Bliss Finance used Chainlink oracles as one of its only oracle, right? And Chainlink paused their Terra Luna oracle at $0.10, even after the Luna token fell below that. And this resulted, when users realized this, they deposited all their Luna and exited from the platform, and it completely bankrupted the protocol. So this is it's a big example of an economic attack where over-reliance on a single oracle can lead to such attacks. So these are some of the big economic attacks that we've seen over the years. Kyber swap in November 2023 of 57 million. It was a result of tick and price manipulation. And the BNB bridge of 570 million. The Mango markets, we're actually going to talk about this next. It was in October 2022 of 115 million, which was a result of price manipulation. The Ferrari attack and the Beanstalk attack, which was a governance attack, which resulted in a $181 million exploit. So let's go through an economic attack step by step. So the curious case of Mango markets. Why do I call it curious? Because there was nothing wrong with the code. Like I said, economic attacks do not have any issues with the code generally. And that is the case for Mango markets. There was nothing wrong with the code. It did exactly what it was supposed to do, and it still resulted in a loss of 116 million US dollars, right? So let's see how the attacker exactly executed the attack. So Mr. Hacker here initiated 2 wallets, each of 5 million USDC. He used wallet 1 to place a sell offer for 483 million Mango tokens on the Mango market platform. He used wallet 2 to purchase all offered Mango tokens at a price of 0.032 US dollars. Now comes the interesting part. The attacker then starts buying spot prices Mango tokens on all other platforms, such as, there was Mango Markets, Ascendex, and FTX, wink wink. So the price of the Mango tokens fluctuates wildly. It reaches 0.91. So it started at 0.032 and it reached 0.91. And then the attacker settled for profit. Once he did that, the Mango token fell to below 2 cents. And you can see the graph there, right? It went to 0.91 and it fell to below 2 cents. This price pump caused over 4,000 liquidations and completely drained the protocol. This was a huge attack, and it showed the importance of why price manipulation is such a big threat, and it cannot be stopped by technical audits. So our case number 2 is Beanstalk protocol. This was a result of a governance attack. It was executed in April 2022, and it drained about 181 million US dollars from the protocol. So the hacker here made 2 proposals to send tokens from the Beanstalk platform to himself, and the other proposal was to a specific country's address. So how the Beanstalk protocol generally works is the smart contract has a function called emergency commit, which allows you to basically go forward with a proposal if you have 2/3 of the voting power in the protocol itself. So the hacker then flash loaned a huge amount of Bean tokens from other platforms, and he basically flash loaned enough tokens to have have control of over 79% of the entire governance of Beanstalk protocol. Once he had that, so he basically crossed the 2/3 limit for emergency commit. He executes that, and he executes the BIP, which is Beanstalk improvement proposal, which was to send a huge number of Bean tokens to himself. So he did this, and it resulted in the DPEG of Bean token to 75% lower value. So as you can see, this graph after the attack, it fell to below 75% of its original value. And mind you, this was a stable coin. So my point being that 3 rounds of technical audits is not enough to say that you've secured your protocol, right? Over 52% of all exploits are not technical, they are economical. And we're going to see a good architecture that can well enough secure your protocol. So the first level of this is security audits. So this is your general public contests on Code Arena, or it can be done by a private firm as well. This is followed by or accompanied by something called penetration testing. And then it is followed by formal verification. Formal verification is basically breaking up your entire code into abstract syntax trees and checking whether your code does what it is supposed to do in a very formal way. And then the last part is an economic simulation or an economic audit. Once we do all of this, all these 4 steps, we still cannot say that we have perfectly secured a protocol, because you never can say that. Our industry by nature is very volatile. So the most we can do is say we've secured 99.9% of the protocol. So like I said, we're currently auditing Compound Finance. We're doing an economic audit for them. So we'll be releasing the report in a few days. If you want to follow the official thread on Compound Forum, you can scan this QR. And if you want to follow along with the other audits that we are doing, you can check us out on X, chain_risk. So this is the abstract of the report that's going to come out in a few days. So we ran 6 million simulations for Compound Finance. This goes back to the same thing that I said, that economic audits cannot be done by a single solo technical auditor, right? We ran 6 million simulations for Compound. And yeah, if you want to follow the thread, if you want to check out the report when it comes out, you can scan this QR. Okay, small story time. So I don't know how many of you can see it, but there's a crack on my watch. Funny story how it happened. I was working at my desk and my cat was sitting across the table, and I looked at him, and she looked at me right in the eye and slapped the watch right across the table. Okay, I mean, the reason for me telling you this is because it was a reminder for me that you can take care of your code as much as you want. You can make sure there are no re-entrancies. You can make sure there are no logic flaws. But if you're not careful about the environment you're putting your code in, there could be a lot of trouble, right? I think I have some time for any questions. Any questions? No? Okay. If not, if you want to connect with me on Twitter, that's my QR. And I'm also mentoring, so I'll be around here if you want to talk to me about security, infra, or you need any other help for your project. I'll be available here. Or if not, just ping me on Discord. Yeah. I think that's my time. Arigato gozaimasu. Thank you.